Okay, so welcome to Saturdays with Tara. I'm Robin. Mary Beth will be with us shortly. She's got some stuff being delivered to her house, and in the meantime, we'll kick off here. We're now into day 23 of our Change Your World program. And it's a lot of fun, a lot of interest, a lot of introspection, a lot of maybe developing new habits. And it's fun to be participating. So I'm going to pass over to our friends Tara here, and we will get this show on the road. Thank you. Welcome. The most important decisions, we would say from our perspective, the only important decisions you ever make are interventions. Of course, we're biased, but we are looking from our perspective, you see. Are interventions, those made by the observer you, to create something new and feel better and better. These are the decisions you came here to make. So if you're looking for more joy in your life, and you're all joy seekers, so you are, it's time to stop indulging yourself in the fantasy that you have to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune. It's time to be you in all your glory, in all your divinity, with all your power. It's time to play a new game. So today, let's talk about choices, the choices you're making. Because you may perceive yourself to be thinking your way through all of life's possibilities, but you're not. Think about these questions. How many decisions have you made today? Think about that. What were they? How many important decisions did you make today? What were they? And what was it that made them important? So as we move forward here, let's start with our disclaimer, of course. There are no borders or buckets in non-physical, and there are no borders or buckets in the non-physical consciousness that is you. Is there any more of this or less of this? So bear that in mind. Keep that in mind as we come back to what we said last week about you being a split personality. There's an observer you that makes new and overriding decisions, and an automatic you that sees you in a status quo world and knows how to navigate that world. And of course, within the automatic you, you're making conscious and subconscious decisions. And so here we've already started with two sets of buckets, have we not? We've talked about an observer you bucket and an automatic you bucket. And within the automatic you bucket, we talked about conscious and subconscious decisions. But our intent today is to have you think about what decisions you make automatically, what decisions you make consciously, and of your conscious decisions, what's significant about them? Which are the significant decisions you make consciously? In the last second, you made, let's say, 1,000 decisions. Just for the as an exercise here and now, with your eyes open, fix your gaze on one point ahead of you. And just notice as you do that you can see in your peripheral vision many things. So each split second of your existence, you're being inundated with visual information, not just that which you're specifically looking at, but everything that you're taking in visually. And you're making decisions about all of that, not consciously, subconsciously. Second by second, you're deciding what's important to focus on, what's not important to focus on. And you feel things. You're feeling things now. But until we said that, you were not conscious of it. Your feet on the floor, perhaps. Your tail in your seat. You can even feel yourself breathing the air through your nose. So all of these things are inundating you as sensory perceptions, second by second. If we say, get up and walk to the door and back, what do you think about consciously? Perhaps that it's a weird question, but you don't think consciously about where you're going to place your feet. Your subconscious is making those decisions. And beneath that level, in your autonomic reactions, which muscles are you using to make those choices and to make those steps and to balance yourself on 2 feet? It was interesting to note a couple of things that came to this one's attention recently. One is that in designing robots to take over from humans, that which is mundane, the hardest thing to take over in a robot is to do the most mundane, is to pick up the clothes and put them in the washer. It's to do the countless small moving of things around in order to organize your life. These are the things which it is hardest to program something to take over. But you do it without thinking, because you have this robot that's already programmed and it handles your world. This one was interested to hear that in the art of doing things like putting tops back on containers, that the physical human learns how to do this with great skill. And the skill is not just in the brain. What has been reported in his world is that some of that thinking, some of that decision-making is down in the hands themselves. That the decision-making is right at the point of contact. And so can you see then the nature of the decisions, all the cells of your body making decisions? Can you see that there's a whole fabric of decisions going on every second? And as we said, in the last second, you made, say, 1,000 decisions. In the last hour, maybe 5 million. In the last day, you made more than 1 billion decisions. What were they? And why didn't you count them? And the reason is because they were subconscious. Within that automatic you, that bucket that's not a bucket as we're talking about, but it's a useful concept, and that's why we use it. Within the automatic you, you're making conscious and subconscious decisions, almost all subconscious. But they're all within the framework of the game that you created from your previous decisions. They're all within that framework. And you may perceive yourself to be thinking your way through all of life's possibilities, but you're not. You're automating your way through life. And what does that mean? That you're staying within the boundaries that you've already set. Even though those boundaries came as a result of a choice you made that's no longer serving you. Money doesn't grow on trees. Therefore, you have to do certain things to make a living, to exist on this planet. That's a decision you may have made. It's not a decision that's cast in stone. It's not a decision that's anything to do with the real you, but it's a decision you made. And the automatic you is living within the framework of those decisions. So are you beginning then to get a feel for this structure that you have in place? This structure which, as we said, there are no buckets. So there's a superconscious you, if you like. There's decisions about the very nature of who you are, about the very shape of the consciousnesses we're describing here, the nature of who you are at your very fundamental essence. And then there's in that tapestry of expectations you have, doesn't matter where it's stored because that's irrelevant, but it exists as a pattern for you and your world. And the automatic you lives within that pattern, lives within those boundaries. So let's think about what makes a decision important. None of you ever make a conscious choice that's not directed towards happiness. Your happiness or the happiness of other conscious entities you've invited into your game, which ultimately, of course, comes back to being your happiness. No matter what you think you want it because you think the having of it will make you happier. It all comes down to feeling good. Some of you say, that's too trivial. There has to be a more divine purpose than that, to which we would respond with, then you have never experienced the joy of putting your hands into the clay of all that is and creating something that is uniquely you. This is the essence of what you are. There can be nothing more divine than this. We'll go even further. This is the reason you exist. We'll go even further. You were born out of a desire. Your desire to create is what created you in the first place. And we don't want to get you too lost in this non-physical truth. Suffice to say that this feeling, so these feelings that you have, this desire to create and to experience the joy of creation is inherent within you. It is the essence of you. It is who you are. So now think about these questions. What if happiness was a choice and not determined by circumstances? What a wild idea. But it is the truth. What if you could choose to feel happier for no reason at all? And you can. What if, no matter what, you could choose to think about things that you previously decided would make you happier? And you can do that too. And there we've talked about two things you can do to feel happier. One is to simply choose to be happier for no reason at all. And if you think that's impossible, try it here and now. For no reason, just judge where you are on the happiness scale right at this point. For no reason at all, allow yourself to move up the scale a little, from 0 to 1 or from 1 to 2. That is a choice you can make. And of course, you can always choose to think about things that feel good. And if you do, is that an automatic you choice or an observer you choice? Think about that. Now, we've talked about choices being in the automatic you category or automatic you mode, if you like, and choices being in the observer you mode. But we've also said there are no buckets. So can you see that it is really just a matter of more or less? There will be some choices which are more the automatic you. If you decide what to have for dinner, you sit down at a restaurant, you pick up the menu, you decide what to have. You're operating very much within, if you like, the framework that you've already established. So you could say that's mostly an automatic you choice. But in this area here, in this area of choosing to be happy, choosing to feel good, is that an automatic you choice or is it an observer you choice? Can you see that you cannot choose to feel happier about yourself and about the world you are in and about you generally without also stepping into some new way of thinking about yourself, stepping into a different place, that it carries you forward in the direction you want to go. And as you do that, as you are stepping into a different version of reality, so you are making an observer you choice, you are changing the direction of your world, even for simple things. If you prepay that you will get that parking spot right at the restaurant door and you get it, there's somebody who didn't get that spot. And there's two versions, many versions, but let's talk of two. Two versions of that, if you like, that episode. One in which you got that spot and one in which you missed out. And those two versions are a different version of reality. So can you see that even these small shifts, these small changes, put in place a train of events? They shift the fabric, if you like, of this game that you're playing. They shift your world. And so each time you make an observer you choice to feel good, to feel better, you are choosing to change your world. And each time you make an attempt, even sometimes when you feel the attempt hasn't been very good, each time you make an attempt, you make a difference to who you are and to the world that you're creating. From Abraham today through Esther, non-physical is not asking you to ascribe to some specific label or stand in specific corners or in specific synagogues or churches with specific words. You are beings who are blessed and who are deserving of well-being. And you will find your well-being in many different ways. And the labels simply do not matter. In other words, to bring this around to the topic of today's discussion, you are not here to follow some path or graduate from some program. You are here to blaze your own trail. You are here to experience the joy of starting from apparent limits and borders and creating new things without limit. And as you do, you'll find yourself changing the very rules of the game that you're in. The most important decisions, we would say from our perspective, the only important decisions you ever make are interventions, those made by the observer you to create something new and feel better and better. These are the decisions you came here to make. So we are encouraging you to take a stand with yourself, to stop indulging yourself in the fantasy that you have to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune. It's time to be you in all your glory, in all your divinity, with all your power. It's time to play a new game.
Good. This Hangout on Air was the summary of our theme for the week. We do 3 live calls a week with Q&A for our members on Mondays, Thursdays, and Saturdays for the summer. You can become a member by going to the loaclub.com/join. Our longer discussion with live Q&A continues now on our member conference line. Back over to Robin and Tara.